Welcome back to the show, Chef. Ever find yourself scrolling through social media wondering why you're not achieving the same accolades or recognition as others? Does the pressure to outperform your peers leave you feeling drained, uninspired, or inadequate? Are you secretly worried that you'll never measure up, no matter how hard you push? In today's episode, we're going to expose how comparison silently undermines your confidence, creativity, and joy, and provide actionable strategies to break you free from its grip. We'll get to that and a whole lot more right after this message. Welcome to Chef Life Radio, the podcast dedicated to helping chefs and culinary leaders take control of their kitchens, build resilient teams, and create a thriving career in hospitality. I'm Chef Adam Lamb, your host, leadership coach, and industry veteran. If you're tired of high turnover, burnout, and the daily grind, you're not alone. This podcast is here to give you the real strategies, insights, and tools you need to lead with confidence, build a culture of excellence, and craft a kitchen that works for you, not against you. Because the best kitchens don't just survive, they thrive. Hit that subscribe button and let's get started. Welcome back. We're talking about thriving in the kitchen and beyond. Today, we're talking about a habit that plagues way too many chefs: comparison. You know what I'm talking about. The endless measuring of our success against someone else's, the constant pressure to be better, faster, more creative. But here's the kicker. Comparison is a thief. It steals your confidence, your creativity, and most importantly, your joy. So let's break this down and talk about how to stop sabotaging ourselves in an industry that thrives on competition. The culinary industry is built on comparison. Every service we're judged by critics, guests, and online reviews. Social media makes it worse, seeing perfectly plated dishes, Michelin-starred kitchens, and chefs getting recognition that we crave. The competitive nature of kitchens fuels this mindset. Someone is always younger, faster, or seemingly more successful. But the problem is that constant comparison creates imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Do I have what it takes? It turns learning into a competition instead of a process. It makes it impossible to celebrate our own wins because we're always looking at someone else's. And that fucking sucks. And if you believe that story, feels like shit. But is that the story? And it's one thing if you're comparing yourself to somebody that you see in the media. But the weirdest thing is when you start comparing yourself to your best friend, which, let's face it, is an occupational hazard. For over 20 years, I compared myself to a guy who I once hired as my sous chef. And as he climbed the ranks and became a chef in his own right, a great chef, I started to watch him from afar and compared myself to him. Our competition went back just as far. At one point, we used to send dishes back and forth to one another in a cab for each of us to critique. And while the competition felt good-natured at one point, as our careers started to diverge, I started using that as a point of comparison, trying to figure out what he was doing, why he was getting the accolades that he was receiving, and to judge my career against his. When in fact, our lives became different. What was important to him became different than what was important to me. And I didn't understand until much later that those choices came with certain costs. Was I willing to pay the same price that he did? Then I finally understood that as long as I envied him, I wasn't spending any time trying to make my career better or to live in my choices. Basically, comparison was a great excuse from being fully where I was, having what I had, and creating gratitude around that which my life was, instead of constantly hoping that it would be something else. And once I got to the space where I could authentically celebrate his wins as well as my own, that's when I understood what true power was. The power to make a positive choice in my life and my career moving forward, free of comparing myself to anybody. Who do you compete against? Who do you compare yourself against? Who do you silently envy, wishing that their life or career was yours? The damage comparison causes. Well, first and foremost, burnout and anxiety. You're feeling like you're always behind,
creates an unsustainable work ethic, pushing yourself harder and harder without real purpose except to go deeper in the grind, pedal faster. And instead of improving for the sake of growth, you start chasing validation from those around you. I'll be the first one to admit that validation feels good. But if that is your motivation for anything that you're doing, except for the pure joy of the process of being present to the magic that's happening right in front of you, once you replace that with hoping that people are going to acknowledge the fact that you've been working really hard at this and giving you that validation back, then that is a bear trap your heart will never, ever get out of. Because here's the simple truth. If you're looking for anyone, even other chefs, to appreciate how much of you are putting into what you do, then that's a fool's errand, because no one will be able to appreciate everything that you've done in order to produce what you do. So expecting other people to understand that and appreciate that when they don't know, and you're asking to get let down every single time. Comparison is a creativity killer. Constantly measuring yourself against others stifles risk-taking and originality. Instead of experimenting, you worry about whether your dish is good enough to compare with others. You're caught in a paralysis of analysis, and you never quite get on with that which is presenting itself to you because you're always worried about how other people are going to interpret it. Will they accept it? Is it going to be good enough for them? Again, placing your validation over there with them instead of here with you, your heart and your brain in concert, connected to the process of creativity. Comparison also breaks down team culture. Comparison doesn't just hurt you, it affects how you see your peers and eventually how they start seeing you. It turns colleagues into competitors, creating tension rather than collaboration. And in regards to me and my best friend, I spent years holding him in judgment that his career was doing so much better than mine. And that secret thing that I held against him, he must have known, even though I didn't say it out loud, because that energy was present every time we connected. And to have to release that, because what I came to understand is I valued his friendship. The Maasai tribe in Africa have a saying that only a spear can sharpen another spear. And while I appreciated and benefited from our competitiveness, what I recognized is that's exhausting to be doing that all the time. I just wanted to drop my spear and just give him a hug and just be friends and not have that between us. And that was my decision, because I had to let that go because it hurt my heart to do otherwise. The last way it breaks down team culture is it starts to become a toxic kitchen culture when chefs feel like they're constantly being ranked instead of being valued for their unique contributions. I once worked at a restaurant on a hotel property. They closed that restaurant down. They let go the chef of the hotel and then asked me, well, chef, you're out of a job now. Would you like another job? And so they put me in competition with the banquet chef to see who would become the chef overall of the property. And that was a miserable 6 weeks of us trying to outdo one another and be seen as having the capacity to lead the entire team of this hotel, until such time as they made a decision, put me in charge. And it turned out that that animosity could have killed that relationship between me and the banquet chef. Instead, laughingly, for a Christmas party, we put a band together, and 15 years later, we were still making music. So I'm really, really thankful that that we were able to come together and heal the breach that existed within that team culture and build that team even better than it was before. But I couldn't have done it without his help. Not all organizations can go through that type of competition and not completely lose their team cohesion, which is the most critical part of any successful culinary operation. How to escape the comparison trap? Well, number one, redefine success on your own terms. Instead of comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 10, define what success looks like for you. This is one of the first steps I take with all my coaching clients in order to understand and deeply embody what your core values are, what your goals and your mission is. It's really important to spend some time doing an imagination practice called Your Perfect Day. And that is imagining your life 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And it's one thing to say, I open up a food truck. It's another thing altogether to spend some time thinking about that, connecting with the emotions, and then write it down. And the best way to do that is imagine your perfect day in that life. You wake up, you do what? What's the next thing? How do you feel when you're having breakfast? Are you spending time with your kids? What's the next step? What's next step? You write that out as your perfect day. And what you're actually doing is you're future projecting what your life will be like at whatever point in your future. But it starts you down the road of defining like what is success to me? Is it money? Is it accolades? Is it family time? What is it that matters most to me? Because conversely, then that becomes your non-negotiable core values. Those are the things that you're not willing to barter away just for a job. Is it leading a happy, high-performing team, running a sustainable kitchen, having balance in your life? The only chef you should be competing with is the one you were yesterday. I constantly talk about that 1% way, which is I'm going to be 1% better than I was yesterday. Because in reality, that is the only outcome that you have power over, that you can influence. You can't influence someone else's life, but you can certainly influence the person that you're going to be tomorrow based upon your thoughts, feelings, and actions of today. That's why it doesn't matter what your outside circumstances look like today. Tomorrow can be completely different if you're focused on what that is and creating an energy around it that is higher than your present circumstance. I know that's a little bit of mumbo jumbo quantum mechanics stuff, but it's true. The shit works. Define what is your perfect day, write it out, put that in a piece of paper, put it away, and come back to it next year and see just how close you came to achieving all those incredibly important emotional points. Not necessarily what you do, but it's the emotion that's attached to what you do that will redefine your success. Point number 2, practice gratitude and reflection. At the end of each shift, instead of asking, did I outperform someone? Try asking, what did I do well today? What did I learn? How did I contribute to the team? Lastly, before you go to bed, make sure that you have a journal next to your bed. And the last thing you do before you go to sleep is write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Everybody can find 3 things to be grateful for. I got up this morning. There's some people in the world that didn't do that today. That you could breathe freely, that you could put your uniform on, that you had transportation. There are 3 things in everyone's life that they can write down. And once they write that down, reflect on that and actually experience gratitude for those things. Because here's the thing, once you start shifting your perspective to looking for things to be grateful for, conversely, you'll find more things to be grateful for. It's weird the way that works, right? Number 3, use comparison as inspiration, not judgment. Instead of, why am I not as good as them? Ask, what can I learn from them? I remember looking at my buddy's menus and being completely perplexed about some of the stuff that he was putting on. I mean, I understood the dishes, but I was like thinking about process and how you do it. He was the first guy I ever knew that did sous vide, and I was calling him for months trying to figure out how to do what he did, not to replicate what he did, but to use those same principles and processes in what I was doing, how I can incorporate those things. And it became a point of celebration and inspiration instead of me looking at it, which I had previously done, and go, shit, man, I'll never do that. Reach out, collaborate, ask questions. Chefs you admire are more approachable than you think. All it takes is a DM. See him on Instagram, DM, hey, listen, I've been following your work. Really love this. Have a question. You got time? ? No one is that unapproachable that they can't spend a couple minutes connecting with somebody who's authentically trying to connect with them instead of just trying to get something out of it, right? It's always important to make sure that you bring value to that conversation and figure out how you can recompense them for any value that you receive from them, right? Number 4, limit the social media spiral. Oh my God. So in my new book that's coming out, I talk about the 1% way, and I also talk about the narrow path as a process for which development can happen spontaneously. And one of the things is on a narrow path, what you do is you limit anything that is not directly relatable to your particular goal. And a lot of that is like trimming down your social media, turning off your notifications. I mean, time and time again, if you look through your day, you can find so many things that are a distraction from you and take you off your present task. And here's a little bit of science for you. They call it context switching. If you're doing one thing and you're deep in that hole and you are grooving on that thing and someone asks you something and pulls you away from that task to do another thing, it can take you up to 2 to 4 hours before you can refocus in on that previous task and get in it. That's why it's so important to time block and make sure that you're doing things within a certain time block so you can focus deeply on that. And then after that time block, start focus deeply on another thing. Recognize that what you see online is a highlight reel. I want you to understand that what you see online, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, I don't care where you look, that's a highlight reel. That's not the full story. Very rarely is anybody posting about what it's like to actually create this particular dish, but there are some absolutely stunning pictures of the dish afterwards, which leaves me in particular, I'll just speak for myself, wondering like how the hell they did that. And conversely, gives me an idea of like, shit, I probably can't do that. Again, that's what it means by stifling creativity. And after a while, you get a bad case of the fuck it's. Well, I'll never be that good, so fuck it. Why try? If following certain accounts makes you feel worse about yourself than others, it's time to unfollow them. Again, it comes back to using comparison as an inspiration, not as judgment. And I know that's easy to say and hard to do. But if you want to stay present to where you're at in your development, such that nothing stands in your way, then you are going to have to disassociate yourself from anything that makes you feel like shit or tries to convince you that you're not good enough. And let's face it, we all have that voice inside our heads that is always telling us that we're not good enough. But that voice is just the voice of our ego. It's a protective mechanism. And the story that it's telling is not the truth. It's just a story. And when you can identify with it as just a story, not right, not wrong, just a story, you can have a different perspective. Thank you for caring, fuck you for sharing, and not take it as the literal truth of who you are or what you're capable of producing. Listen, chef, comparison will always be part of this industry. It's built into the way we work, train, and compete. But it's up to you whether you'd let it drive you or destroy you. Instead of looking sideways, look forward. Instead of measuring yourself against others, measure how far you have come. Today, I challenge you to catch yourself the next time comparison creeps in. I want you to take a deep breath and remind yourself your journey is yours alone. Keep pushing forward, keep learning, and most of all, keep cooking with passion. Here's your action steps. Number 1, identify one way comparison has been holding you back. Number 2, set a personal goal based on growth, not competition. Number 3, celebrate one small win today, no matter how minor. And number 4, at the end of the day, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a fellow chef. And if you're ready to reclaim your passion, purpose, and process in the kitchen, hit subscribe and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tall and frosty. That's a wrap for today's episode of Chef Life Radio. If this resonated with you, do me a favor, subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us reach more culinary leaders like you who are ready to take their kitchens to the next level. Want more? Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or join our Chef Life Radio community for exclusive insights and leadership tools. Remember, leadership isn't about perfection, it's about progress. So take what you've learned today and apply it in your kitchen, your team, and your life. Chef Life Radio is more than just a podcast, it's a movement. The focus is no longer just on career survival, but on transforming leadership, creating sustainability, and ensuring chefs can build kitchens that thrive. Remember, the secret ingredient to culinary success isn't just in the food, it's in the leadership. Keep learning, keep growing, and as always, lead with the heart. See you next time.